When it comes to protecting your privacy online, I think of it this way. Your online presence comes with a warning label. I bet you already know that bad things can happen to good people online. But you also know that good things can happen to good people online. This label is here just so that you can understand that there are risks. But does that mean that you shouldn't go online? No, of course not. When you go online, make sure to protect yourself. Protect your data. I'm sure you already do this. You protect your information with secure passwords, and even your passwords have protection. Some people choose very little data protection, and some people go way overboard. It's your choice. But what about other things like the images of your people? Do those need protected? How far should you go? Again, it comes with a warning label. Bad things can happen with images containing your people, but good things can happen as well. In this video, I'm going to show you 3 ways that you can use Photoshop or Photoshop Elements to protect the privacy of your people, if you choose to do so. And by the way, this tutorial is not just for your people in your images. This tutorial is also great for protecting the privacy of people that you don't know that are in your images. And if you don't have permission from them to share their image, then it's probably best to protect their privacy. Now, because scrapbooking is what we do here at Digital Scrapper, I'm going to start with a scrapbook page. And I'm starting here in advanced mode of Photoshop Elements. All the instructions that I'm going to be using in this tutorial will work exactly the same for Adobe Photoshop, except where noted. So if you create a scrapbook page that you are proud of, I would 100% encourage you to share it online with people you trust, like Digital Scrapper's community. Don't shy away from sharing. It benefits not only you, but those that you share with. But one thing is for sure. If you go to all the trouble of creating something like this, you do not want to ruin it just for the sake of people's privacy. So the first step to protecting your privacy is to create a new layer. This layer should always be at the top of your layers panel. So with a layered scrapbook page open, or even a flattened one, click on the top layer in the layers panel to activate it. And then click on the Create a New Layer icon. Nothing should have changed on your document. Next, get the brush tool. In the tool options, open the brush preset picker, open the drop-down menu, and choose Default Brushes. If you're using Photoshop, open the brush picker, and then open the General Brushes folder. Choose a hard round brush. It doesn't matter which hard round brush you choose. If you need to see the names of the brushes, click on the flyout menu and place a check mark next to Large List. In Photoshop, you would place that check mark next to brush name. Then back in the tool options, set the opacity to 100% and the mode to normal. In Photoshop, you would also set the flow to 100%. The color for your brush doesn't matter, but you should know that the brush is going to use whatever is set for the foreground color chip. So if you want to change the color of the brush, click on the foreground color chip. That will open the color picker. Then choose a color, or you can click on the document to sample a color. I'll go ahead and stick with black and then click OK. Next, we'll change the size of the brush. To change the size of the brush on the fly, press the right bracket key. As you press this key, the size of the brush is going to increase. I'll put mine right about there, which is 500 pixels. And then finally, on the document, click to stamp the brush over places that you want to remain private. On this layout, I would want to hide his face here and his face down here. For this one though, I'm going to press the left bracket key to make that brush quite a bit smaller, and then I'll click once right here. I might also want to hide some of this data down here at the bottom, so I'll click once right here over my journaling. And then now the document is ready to save for sharing. I'll leave those instructions for you in the manual. Then after you're done saving a web copy of your scrapbook page, go ahead and click and drag that extra layer to the trash icon, and then save your layered document. So that was the quickest and easiest of the people privacy methods that I'm going to show you. But it's probably also the ugliest and the most distracting. So let me show you people privacy number 2. This one is called Select and Blur. Using this method, we'll not only create a new layer, but we're going to create a new composite layer. And the way you do that is to click on the top layer to activate it. And then just in case this top layer is not visible, click on the Create a New Layer icon. To get a composite layer, hold down Shift-Alt-Control-E in Windows or Shift-Option-Command-E on a Mac. And this will add a composite layer to the top of the Layers panel. It's kind of like a snapshot. Next, get the elliptical marquee tool. It's nested with the other marquee tools. Click on the new selection icon, set the feather to 0 and the aspect to normal. In Photoshop, you would set the style to normal. Then, on the document, click and drag a selection around a small part of the scrapbook page that you want to make private. So I'll click and drag a selection around his face. To reposition while dragging, hold down the space bar. So I'm going to just put it right here and make it small enough so that it just covers his face. I'm no longer holding down that space bar. If there are additional areas on the document that you want to remain private, hold down the Shift key and a little plus sign will be added to the cursor. That means you're going to be adding to the selection. I'll click and drag another selection around the part of his face down here. Again, you can hold down the space bar to reposition. So I'll put it right about there. And then I'm going to hold down my Shift key one more time and click and drag a selection around this data down here at the bottom of my layout. So now I have 3 little areas that are selected on my document. In the menu bar, choose Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. In the dialog box, set the radius to 50 and then click OK. And then press Ctrl D, Command D on a Mac to deselect. Once again, at this point you'll want to save your document for sharing. The instructions for doing that are included in the manual. This is the most elaborate of all the ways that I'm showing you how to protect people's privacy, but it's also probably the nicest looking way. So once your page is saved for the web, go ahead and click and drag that composite layer to the trash icon, and then save your layered document. So now let's take a look at people privacy number 3, which is strategically placed element. This scrapbook page that you're seeing here was created using Live a Good Story by Kim B Designs. In this method, you will use one of the elements from the same kit that you used to scrap with to cover portions of the page that you want to remain private. So I already have one of those elements open. Here's a little camera by the same kit. I'll get the Move tool and click and drag that camera onto the document. It's important that that element layer that you're using is at the very top of the Layers panel. So if it's not, click and drag it there now. You could use different elements for the different places on your page that you want to remain private, or you could just use the same one. So for example, I'm going to use this camera to cover his face up here. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller though. So I'll get the Move tool and then the Transform options by pressing Control-T, Command-T on a Mac. I'll click and drag on the corner handles of the bounding box to resize, and click and drag inside the bounding box to reposition. And I'm going to place it over his face so that you just can't see his smile. So that looks good to me. I also want a little camera down here, so I'll press Control-J, that's Command-J on a Mac, to duplicate that camera element. And I still have the Move tool. On the document, I'll click and drag down and place that camera over the little face here at the bottom. I'm going to transform that to be a little bit smaller as well. Something like that. And then if I wanted to cover this data, I could duplicate that camera once again and move it down here. Looks like that size did not stick. So I'll put that there. Let me resize this one just to show you what that's going to look like when I'm all finished. And now it's covering the parts of the scrapbook page that I want to remain private. Those little elements kind of just blend right in because they match the surrounding elements, yet the little faces and the data are still covered up. So while this method might be a little bit more distracting, it's certainly more fun. Again, at this point, you would want to save the document as a web file for sharing. Instructions for doing that are in the manual. And then once it's saved for web, click and drag all those extra layers that you created to the trash icon. So I'll click and drag 3 camera elements to the trash. Now I'm back where I started, and I'll save my layered document. So those are 3 ways to protect your people privacy. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like and consider subscribing to our channel. This has been Jen White with Digital Scrapper. We help you get your stories told.